Hello and welcome everybody in the breakout session where I will talk about cookies and personal data. First of all, I would like to thank Safe Shops, Katrien, who invited me to come and speak about this topic. Very grateful. Thank you very much. I hope you will enjoy it. Traffic, privacy, consent, personalization, intelligent offering and customer satisfaction, all driven by the quality of data. With Google abandoning the third-party cookie policy, e-commerce managers just like you need to put in place new strategies and tools to stay ahead of the game and deliver that CX or customer experience that makes your customer come back again and again. Hi, my name is Didier Helsen. Studied marketing and business economics. Marketing was my first love, and as the song goes, I think it will always be my last. I started my first experiences in a marketing agency, working for companies like Coca-Cola and Movistar. But it was the in-store experience at Ice Adventure that gave me a real grasp of the customer and the customer experience, where we created, alongside with the marketing manager, in-store experiences that at this day, still nowadays, are in those stores. Took my first steps in the SaaS environment while working in a startup called Social Cedar, an ambassador platform, as we have a couple of here in Belgium. Over the last years, I was active in the area of customer experience, first for Oracle and since 2.5 years for SAP. Nowadays, I'm responsible for the area of customer data management at SAP, helping sales partners, but all of them actually evangelizing the importance of customer data throughout the company. But first, a bit of history, a little evolution. I think it was back in the early 70s when CRM first was originated, when business units had a manifestation that it would be advisable to become more customer empathic rather than product empathic. I think there the CRM birth was because of this heedful perception. Only in the late 80s did we see the foundations of the CRM as we have them today. With the late 90s, we saw CRM going online, with Siebel launching the first mobile CRM. Siebel sales handhelds. Adoption of mobile CRM was, however, rather poor, mainly due to the lack of adequate devices. With the upcoming of more devices, we also saw that the rise, with the upcoming of more devices, we also saw the rise of more and more data. And we tried to make sense of all of that data that the customer was leaving behind. The age of digitization also meant for companies to change their course and strategy, which was a very complex thing. For example, changing from paperwork to digital systems. In the late 90s, Salesforce introduced the first software as a service, SaaS CRM, and Eloqua started its first marketing automation software, which was then and later acquired by shortly by Oracle. The age of digitization was here and soon followed by our needs for even further personalization. We started mapping customers in journeys. We tried to personalize by addressing a mail with his first name. Figure out. We also started to track everything. Again, I come from Oracle. I know. In the meantime, websites tracking all visitor footsteps, cookies saw the daylight. Let me rephrase, they, by the way, already exist 25 years. But today we've entered the age of the customer. Have you never wondered why you as a customer, you were at every time tracked, why they are using your data, who is selling your digital footprints? Little by little, we start deciding when and how our data is being used. It's actually ours. And in my perspective, we're only in the beginning. The need to know who your customer is, trying to contextualize, making money out of it, it's not new, but change is coming, especially for those cookies. In the story, a boy and a girl lost in the woods were able to mark their trail by dropping cookie crumbs behind them, or breadcrumbs. So the analogy is that users leave crumbs behind when browsing in order for you to track their activities. Better you than everybody knows that cookies store those activities on the internet. Those are small pieces of computer code that website displays in the browser history. Again, I don't need to explain to you guys, you're the experts here. Cookie collect choice of language, settings, prior searches, etc. Cookies are also designed to be a reliable mechanism for websites to remember specific information, which makes it the user easier to serve on the website and not for him to make the same choices endlessly. But what I just mentioned are the idea of first-party cookies, making the life of a visitor much easier when browsing. But what I just mentioned is the idea of the first-party cookies, making the life for the visitor much easier when browsing. This being said, we have a multitude of cookies. The session cookies, in-memory, persistent cookie, tracking cookies, secure cookies, super cookies, zombie cookies, and the ones we're talking about today is the third-party cookie. All in all, to collect detailed information on user behavior on, for example, social media, search engines, favorite websites in order to advertise specific products and services. On the other hand, we have those pesky third-party cookies created by websites other than the one you're visiting. Most commonly, they're used to track user behavior to support online advertising. If you've ever been on a favorite website or fashion website looking at a lovely pair of shoes, and then when you go to another website, you still see that same pair of shoes follow you around the internet for a while. That's only possible due to third-party cookies. So this is just about online ads? No, would mostly say, but not entirely. It's not only advertising. You'd be surprised at some of the services supported by cookies, even live chat, chatbots, as well as CRM lead monitoring systems, etc. Even those social media sharing buttons you often see on news article websites utilize them too. Essentially, third-party cookies are mostly used to track user behavior around the web. And there's definitely a discussion to be had here, as in many ways it could be argued that this functionality makes the web a better place. For me personally, I like that websites remember some of the behavioral data, the first-party cookies, to improve my experience. I'm the kind of person that would rather see a relevant ad than the irrelevant ad, or that tracks me along the way when I'm surfing. However, the issue has historically been that most of the average users aren't aware that cookies are doing this in the background. And it has historically been a difficult process to prevent and remove this functionality. So why would we care? And this is the right question to be asking. To put it simply, you should care because browsers are beginning to act on this matter. They're starting to take the user privacy more seriously, due to specific regulations, of course. And they're implementing changes to their browsers that better protect the user. In particular, this has become a heightened discussion point since Google also announced in January 2020 that Chrome, the most popular browser in the world, by quite some distance, would begin to phase out those third-party cookies within the next 2 years. But actually, it's a good thing, of course, but it absolutely has consequences for the digital marketing industry. Some of the changes that have been or are about to be implemented by these browsers will have a big impact upon the way in which digital marketing can operate and what it will look like in the future. And we think it's important that we, as a vendor, but also our clients, understand these changes, as they're likely to impact digital marketing strategies moving forward. But more important, it will impact on the revenue of the company. So where does these changes come from, actually? First of all, from the customer. Customers have become really sensitive when it comes down to privacy due to advertisers that were actually too aggressive today, but also in the past. Frustration, irritations popped up with these kind of advertisers in the numbers of ads and retargeting practices. Customers, quite frankly, quickly discovered those ad blockers that block those third-party cookies, which led, of course, to frustration of, first of all, media and advertising. To give you a number, about 30 to 40%, I think you have better numbers, of course, of customers have installed those ad blockers. But also, as said, in the age of the customer, the preferences are changing. The customer preferences are changing. They are required to have and give a proper consent. They want that consent to opt in and out if and where possible. Second big point is from a government perspective. GDPR was only the blueprint for a stronger privacy regulation. And this not only in the EU, but around the globe with similar acts created. GDPR standardized the protection of personal data with clear rules regarding privacy and transparency. And soon, by the way, the EU will also add an extra e-privacy regulation, the more friendly ways for consent. The discussion is not final, but it will go around the customer or the citizen that will at every point need to give his explicit allowance on when or how his data is being used. Allowance on browser or app level or via a cookie wall. Again, we're only at the tip of the iceberg. And then finally, the internet giants came into action. Following the blueprint of GDPR, Apple was the first launching its IPT, Intelligent Prevention Tracking. Safari joined in 2017 with an extra in 2019 where they only keep the first-party cookies for 7 days and in some cases even for 1 day. Firefox followed in 2019 and finally Google will block it as of 2022 with its lock. Will it be the end of third-party cookies and will it be the end of how we're advertising? No. Google, for example, will offer those ads and ad spaces, but on their conditions, in their environment. Again, you can talk about who's earning the money then. You can talk about bit streams, contextual targeting. But as said, these are workarounds, and workarounds in most cases are just temporary. Again, think of the customer who is asking more and being more in control of his own data. So coming back to the impact as a revenue. We start seeing companies that change their mindset and strategy and not talk about walkarounds. We are very confident that there will be a shift in budget and focus when it comes down to privacy and consent. Companies will not have any other choice than to concentrate on their own most valuable asset, being their own customer data. The way forward could be via workarounds, as said, but historically an experience has shown us that this strategy is limited in time, and in this case, a very short time. The real way forward, in our perspective, is to have a first-party driven approach, where a company, first of all, needs to build a foundation of its customer data pipeline for its business to grow. Real-time, not near real-time, real-time, channel independent, and trusted. To collect every first-party interaction based on consent and privacy, even if a customer is not known yet. And to integrate that data in each and every touchpoint relevant. Would it be marketing, service sales, commerce, even the smallest microservice that you have in your company? For me, a customer data platform should be the cornerstone of a company when talking about customer centricity, providing that unified customer profile across all channels, real-time interactions and redistribution of relevant information on all channels, and this while respecting all privacy regulations and consent as given by your customer. And again, preferably in real time, not in real time, bidirectionally towards each and every touch point, being it front or back end. But why haven't we done this years ago? What blocked us and what's driving the change of focus today? First of all, it's the change with the browsers, the third-party cookies. And that's a major change for US e-commerce managers, marketing managers, etc. So what you see actually on the screen are the actuals, the actual challenges in the company, and even forgetting probably even more. But this is where we are and where we come from as an industry. The cookie change, the privacy legislation, GDPR, how individuals are communicated to, it's wearing. We're getting a lot of data fatigue in our databases. The challenge here, for example, is you on a Sunday who are getting a lot of spam in your email box from companies you once subscribed or bought a product from. What we see is that the highest rate of unsubscription is on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening around 7 p.m. And this is a big problem because once unsubscribed with GDPR, you are no longer able to contact those customers. And actually, it articulates the real challenge. We have to be sure that we're meeting the demands of those customers. And this is actually what we're talking about. Customer acquisition versus customer retention. Acquisition is mostly and farly most done via ads, led by third-party cookies, third-party data, ad spaces, etc. Yeah? Retention, on the other hand, is focusing on your own customers and focusing on the customer lifetime value. And this is what we need to do more and more. Because actually, 20% of your customers stand for 80% of the revenue. What would it mean if we can make from that 20%, 21, 22, or 23%? But in addition to that, in meeting those demands, it's really hard to get the stuff right. We're all looking to have that more personalization again. In order to get it right, we have to know the customer. We have to know where he is at any given point in my landscape. A combination of on and offline, for example. We have to know for real that this customer is we think he is. And if I have to know this across all channels, it's difficult. And same goes for meeting the demands regarding regulation and privacy. If I ask them to be sent an email on a Sunday afternoon, or WhatsApp or an SMS, you better not send me that SMS or WhatsApp, because this is the promise that you made towards me as a customer. And it's difficult. Why? Because most of the companies got this awful amount of data and silos across the organization, whether it be marketing, commerce, IT, service, they're all there. And they all claim, and I can relate on that, they all have the best solutions equipped for the company. Agree. And they also tend to say is that this makes them customer-centered. More of is that when I talk to service managers, marketing managers, commerce managers, they all say they have that 360-degree view in their solutions. Are they customer-centric at that point? Let me tell you, they are not. And the rationale here is that at any given point in the customer journey, your customer could be at any of those channels, and these departments have actually no clue, which leads to inconsistent data practices. So, as pointed out, we have to change the focus to be more first-party oriented. But where do you start? Well, as pointed out, understanding who that customer is, making sure we can capture his consent and preferences, but also capturing when he can communicate with him is crucial. So starting with an identity and consent strategy is let me rephrase, key. You have to understand where your customer is at any given point. But again, it's half the problem. Like I said, we have this incredible amount of data across the organization and across data sources. And not only from a front end, applications, but mainly in the back end. Financial data, logistics data, NPS scores. And we need to unify those to offer a next stage turn model for our customers. Always serving and meeting you, the customer, of course, as we said. And that's the only way to offer that highly personalized experience across channels, across devices. If you start anywhere else, in my perspective, you're going to fail. Because this is what differentiates an enterprise CDP with a CDP that only concentrates on marketing or commerce use cases. It starts with understanding who the customer is. No other CDP can do this at this time. It's about non-churn, or better said, increase the customer lifetime value. To this regard, I'm still at SAP, of course. SAP Customer Data Cloud and the Customer Data Platform are jointly referred to represent a practical approach, allowing you to, first of all, identify who the customer is, from known to unknown, being it single sign-on, build your own identity. Federation, actually convert this customer in a very easy way, social login, light registration, etc. And you don't need to ask 10 to 15 questions starting up or knowing this customer. Again, yesterday I got this formula for converting me into an extra client at one of the major retailers here in Belgium. They asked me over 20 questions. I will never fill them in. This is what's happening today. We don't allow to give that much information any longer. Ask me very small things, light registration. And by knowing or by interacting more and more with the customer, you can ask extra questions. We have to convert users into brand advocates, which our latest innovation now extends to bring offline and online data aboard. Giving your data value, set triggers or events that launch automatically and in real time, and this on the customer's behalf. Again, an example. If your customer is a high-value customer, how do you know it's a high-value customer to start with? Secondly, if this high-value customer expresses a complaint and you're not real-time interacting with him, you could lose him as a customer. Again, retention acquisition. We have to be smart with the data and only use it when asked by the customer. The consent piece. How are we going to communicate with him? Via marketing, via SMS, WhatsApp. It's something that a customer gives. And also here is the transparency. We should be able to opt in and opt out when possible. All in all, to say that this is how you gain trust with your customer. Because it's those customers, and it's not companies that should own the customer experience. Customers have the power to choose how and when they experience, how and when they experience your brand. Trust is the foundation of every exceptional customer experience, and this combined with transparency for the customer leads the way to more loyalty, more advocacy, nothing else. Thank you.